On the day my wife Margaret passed away, I said nothing about the $32 million in assets under my name, or about the 12 rental properties I owned across 3 states. That same night, my daughter-in-law screamed, "Pack your bags, old man, you're not staying here." I said, "Okay." Then I decided to do something that would change everything. I'm Harold Stevens, and I'm 57 years old. Let me tell you what happened after 38 years of marriage ended, and how I learned exactly what my family thought I was worth. The funeral had been everything Margaret would have wanted: simple, dignified, filled with people whose lives she'd touched during her battle with cancer. I sat in the front row of St. Mary's Church wearing my Navy suit, the one she always said made me look distinguished. Everyone kept telling me what a devoted husband I'd been, how I'd cared for her through those final 8 months without complaint. If only they knew what I'd actually been doing behind the scenes all these years. My son Tyler gave a beautiful eulogy about his mother. My daughter Susan read a poem that had Margaret in tears when she was still with us. Even my other son Scott, who'd driven down from Boston, managed to say something heartfelt, but it was Tyler's wife, Linda Walsh, who caught my attention throughout the service. She'd been watching me with calculating eyes all day, and I knew something was coming. Linda had married Tyler 3 years ago, and from day one, she'd made it clear she thought I was taking up space in their lives. A burden who'd somehow trapped Margaret into supporting me. She had no idea what my consulting business actually generated or where our comfortable lifestyle really came from. To her, I was just the unemployed husband living off his wife's teaching salary. The reception was at our house on Elm Street. Well, what everyone assumed was our house. I watched as relatives I barely knew picked through photo albums as distant cousins sized up our furniture with their eyes. Scott's wife kept asking pointed questions about Margaret's life insurance policy, while Susan's husband made comments about how much the house must be worth. Linda was orchestrating it all from the center of the room, playing the grieving daughter-in-law while her eyes calculated the value of everything around her. The last guest left around 9 p.m. I was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher, trying to keep my hands busy so my grief wouldn't overwhelm me, when I heard heavy footsteps stop at the doorway. "Well, that's over with," Linda announced. Her voice had lost all pretense of mourning. I didn't turn around. I kept loading plates, focusing on the simple task to keep myself steady. "Thank you for helping with the arrangements," I said quietly. "Margaret would have appreciated it. Cut the act, Harold." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the quiet kitchen like a knife. I finally turned around. Linda stood there with her arms crossed, still in her black dress but having shed any pretense of grief. Behind her, Tyler shifted uncomfortably from foot to foot. Scott and Susan flanked them, creating what felt like a tribunal facing me across my own kitchen. "I'm sorry, I managed." The grieving widower routine. "You can drop it now." Linda stepped closer, and I could see the cold calculation in her eyes. "We need to talk about practical matters." My hand stilled on the dishwasher door. What practical matters? This house, Margaret's assets, the family finances. She said each word like she was explaining something to a slow child. "Tyler and I have discussed it with Scott and Susan. We think it's best if you start looking for your own place." The kitchen seemed to tilt around me. Those words hit harder than anything I'd felt all day, even harder than watching them lower Margaret's coffin into the ground. "My own place?" Susan cleared her throat nervously. "What Linda means is, this house is quite large for one person, and frankly, the upkeep costs alone will be." "Are you telling me to leave?" I interrupted, my voice barely above a whisper. Linda smiled, and it wasn't kind. It was the smile of someone who thought they held all the cards. "I'm telling you to be realistic, Harold. You're 57 years old. Margaret took care of you while she was alive, but now you need to think about downsizing, finding something more appropriate to your situation." "My situation?" "Well, you never really built anything substantial, did you?" Linda gestured around the kitchen like she was already measuring it for new curtains. "Your little consulting firm brings in what, maybe 40 grand a year. Margaret's teaching salary was what kept this household running. The family needs to make some hard decisions about her estate." I felt something cold settle in my chest, not grief this time, but something else entirely. Something that had been dormant for years, but was suddenly very much awake. "This is my home. I've lived here for 20 years, and it's been wonderful," I'm sure Scott said. Finally speaking up, his voice was apologetic but firm, but Mom would want us to be practical. "There are 3 of us kids, plus grandchildren to think about. College funds, retirement planning. Margaret left a will," I said. "Yes, and we'll honor whatever small provision she made for you," Linda said dismissively. "But let's be honest about what this is. You were financially dependent on her, not the other way around. You didn't build this life together, she built it, and you lived in it." The words hit me like physical blows. After 38 years of marriage, after caring for her through cancer, after building an empire they knew nothing about, I was just a dependent in their eyes. I think you should pack tonight, Linda continued, her voice gaining confidence as she saw I wasn't fighting back. Tyler and I can stay here to help manage the transition. It'll be easier for everyone if we handle Margaret's affairs directly. I looked at Tyler, silently pleading with him to defend me, to remember that I was his father, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stood there, letting his wife dismantle our family right in front of him. Where am I supposed to go? I asked. Linda shrugged like it was the most natural question in the world. There are nice senior communities around here, assisted living facilities. I'm sure you'll find something suitable, assisted living, like I was some helpless old man who couldn't take care of himself. I stood there in my own kitchen, surrounded by people I'd considered family, and felt my heart break in a way that was completely different from losing Margaret. This wasn't death taking someone away. This was betrayal, pure and simple. But as I looked at their faces, Linda's cruel satisfaction, Tyler's weak avoidance, Scott and Susan's uncomfortable but determined expressions, something else began to grow alongside the pain. Something cold and quiet and very, very patient. Okay, I said simply. Linda blinked, clearly caught off guard. Okay, I'll pack tonight. I'll be gone in the morning. The silence that followed was deafening. I think they'd expected me to fight, to beg, to make a scene that would justify their treatment of me. Instead, I turned back to the dishwasher and continued loading plates with steady hands. Well, Linda said, clearly thrown off balance by my calm response. Good. That's very mature of you. I didn't respond. I just kept working, listening as their footsteps retreated from the kitchen, as they began discussing my life in excited whispers from the living room. They thought they'd won. They thought they were getting rid of a burden and claiming what was rightfully theirs. They had no idea what they'd just done. They thought Margaret's widower was just an old man with nowhere to go and nothing to fight with. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I packed 2 suitcases that night, just 2. Everything else, the family photos, the furniture Margaret and I had chosen together, my father's watch, I left behind. Let them think it was all they were getting. Let them believe the grieving widower was walking away with nothing but some old clothes and memories. The Hampton Inn on Route 9 became my temporary home. Not exactly the Ritz, but it had everything I needed. A business center, reliable Wi-Fi, and most importantly, complete anonymity. I checked in paying cash and told the desk clerk I was visiting family. Perfect. Invisible was exactly what I needed to be right now. The first call I made was to Nathan Reed. Nathan had been my attorney for 15 years, but more than that, he'd been my strategic advisor for building the empire that no one in my family knew existed. They assumed Margaret handled all our legal affairs through some family lawyer. They had no idea I maintained my own counsel. Harold, Nathan's voice was warm when he answered, though I could hear the concern underneath. I'm so sorry for your loss. Margaret was a wonderful woman. Thank you, Nathan. I need to see you tomorrow if possible. Somewhere private, there was a pause. Nathan had known me long enough to read between the lines. The family giving you trouble. Something like that. Can you come to me? I'd rather not be seen at your office right now. Text me the address. I'll be there. Nathan arrived the next morning carrying his leather briefcase and wearing the expression of a man who dealt with family greed more times than he cared to count. I'd ordered coffee and pastries from room service, a small luxury that would have raised eyebrows if anyone had been watching my spending. How bad is it? Nathan asked, settling into the room's single armchair. I told him about the night before, about Linda's demands, about being told to find appropriate housing for someone in my situation, about how they dismissed me as someone who'd never contributed anything to our family's success. Nathan's jaw tightened as I spoke, and I could see the anger building behind his professional composure. Do they have any idea about your actual financial situation? None whatsoever. Margaret and I decided years ago it was better that way. Let them think she was the breadwinner while I played the supporting husband. Let them assume my consulting business was our only source of income, and you're sure you want to proceed as we discussed years ago. I looked out the hotel window at the parking lot, at ordinary cars filled with ordinary people living ordinary lives. Yesterday, they would have seen me as one of them, just another older man, probably recently widowed, probably struggling to figure out his next steps. They had no idea that the man in room 237 owned more property than most of them could imagine. I'm sure. How long will it take to get everything ready? Nathan opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. The preliminary transfers were completed years ago, remember? Everything has been legally yours since 2008. Margaret insisted on it after her first cancer scare. We can have full documentation ready for presentation within 48 hours. I nodded, feeling that cold satisfaction settled deeper into my bones. What about the house? Nathan allowed himself a small smile. Technically, you could evict them today if you wanted to. The property deed has been in your name alone for over 15 years. But I assume you have something more educational in mind. I want them to show me exactly who they are first. Let them get comfortable in my house, make their plans, divide up what they think is theirs. Give them enough rope to hang themselves with their own greed. And then I'll remind them that assumptions can be very dangerous things. Nathan spent the next hour walking me through documents that had been carefully prepared years ago. Most widows would be lost in the legal terminology, overwhelmed by the complexity of estate planning and asset management. But I wasn't most widows, and I certainly wasn't the helpless dependent my family thought I was. After Nathan left, I drove back to Elm Street. My street, I parked across the road and watched through tinted windows as a moving truck pulled into my driveway. Linda was directing the workers like she was orchestrating a military campaign, pointing toward Margaret's study, gesturing at the bedrooms. She'd brought her own furniture, I realized. She wasn't just staying temporarily to handle affairs. She was moving in permanently. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Hope you found a nice place, Dad. Linda's getting Mom's office organized. Found some business files we need to go through." I almost laughed out loud. Business files in Margaret's study. If they only knew that Margaret's real business files consisted of lesson plans and parent conference notes. The documents that actually mattered were in a safety deposit box downtown, along with property deeds, stock certificates, and financial records that would turn their world upside down. But let them look through Margaret's desk drawers and filing cabinets. Let them find her appointment books and insurance policies. Let them calculate modest assets and plan modest inheritances. The truth would be so much more devastating when it came. I drove downtown to First National Bank, where I'd maintained accounts for over 2 decades. Beverly Turner, my personal banker, greeted me with professional sympathy mixed with genuine concern. "Mr. Stevens, I was so sorry to hear about Margaret's passing. How are you holding up? As well as can be expected, Beverly. I need to make some account adjustments." Beverly nodded, probably assuming I needed to add Margaret's name to survivor benefits or update beneficiary information. Standard procedure when a spouse passes away. Instead, I handed her the documentation Nathan had prepared. Her eyes widened as she read, "Mr. Stevens, these amounts, I had no idea you were working with such substantial portfolios. Privacy was important to Margaret and me, but circumstances have changed. I need these transfers to take effect immediately." As Beverly processed the paperwork, I thought about Linda back at the house, probably going through Margaret's closet, deciding which clothes were worth keeping. I thought about Scott and Susan likely meeting with some budget financial advisor to discuss their modest expectations from their mother's estate. I thought about Tyler, weak Tyler, who'd let his wife bully the man who'd raised him. They thought they'd gotten rid of me. They thought the inconvenient widower was out of the way, leaving them free to claim their inheritance. They had no idea they'd just picked a fight with someone who'd spent 25 years learning how to play the long game. My phone rang as I was signing the last transfer documents. Linda's name appeared on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her message with growing amusement. "Harold, we found some confusing paperwork in Margaret's office. Legal documents that don't make sense. Some property stuff that has your name on it, but it can't be right. Could you call me back? There might be some things you need to explain. Confusing paperwork. I could only imagine what they'd found. Probably outdated copies Margaret kept for show, documents that referenced assets that no longer existed under her name. They were getting nervous, realizing that their mother's financial picture wasn't as clear-cut as they'd assumed. I deleted the message without responding. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them spend sleepless nights trying to figure out why nothing added up the way they'd expected. The calls kept coming over the next few days. First Tyler, his voice uncertain. "Dad, could you help us understand some of Mom's business arrangements? There are some papers here that reference properties we didn't know about." Then Scott, "Harold, we're having trouble with Mom's financial records. Nothing seems to match what we expected. Could you come by and help us sort this out?" Finally, Susan, sounding genuinely confused, "Daddy, please call us back. We found documents that don't make sense, legal papers with your name on them that we need to understand." I ignored them all. Instead, I spent my days in the hotel's business center, making calls that would have shocked them senseless if they'd known. Tuesday morning, I spoke with the property management company that handled my apartment complexes in Manhattan. Wednesday afternoon, I had a conference call with my investment advisor about moving some assets around. Thursday, I spent 2 hours on the phone with architects about renovation plans for the warehouse building I owned in Chicago. The building that was my little secret, even from Margaret in some ways. She'd known I owned it, but she'd never fully grasped what it had become. When I'd bought it 15 years ago with proceeds from my first wife's life insurance, it had been a rundown warehouse in a neighborhood nobody wanted. Now it was worth $18 million, and the rent from the high-end lofts I'd created generated more income in a month than my consulting firm made in a year. But they didn't know any of that. To them, I was still just the second husband who'd never worked a day in his life. On Friday morning, Nathan called with news that made me smile for the first time since Margaret's funeral. They've hired an attorney, he said without preamble. Have they now? Craig Bennett from Bennett and Associates. He's asking questions about Margaret's estate, wanting to ensure everything is being handled properly. I set down my coffee cup, feeling that familiar cold satisfaction spread through my chest. How proper of them to be concerned. There's more. They're requesting a formal reading of the will. They want all beneficiaries present, including you. When? Monday afternoon, 2 p.m. at Bennett's office. Perfect. I'll be there, Harold. Are you sure you're ready for this? Once we walk into that room, there's no going back. They're going to learn exactly who you are. I looked out my hotel window at the ordinary world beyond, at people going about their ordinary lives with ordinary problems. Soon, very soon, I would no longer be invisible to the family that had dismissed me so easily. Nathan, I said, I've been ready for this moment for 15 years. That weekend, I moved out of the Hampton Inn and into the penthouse suite at the Fairmont Hotel downtown, just for 2 nights, just to remind myself who I really was before walking into that meeting. I ordered room service, lobster, and champagne, and reviewed the documents Nathan had prepared one final time. Everything was in order. Everything was legal. Everything was about to change. Monday morning arrived cold and gray, matching my mood perfectly. I dressed carefully in my best Navy suit, applied Margaret's favorite cologne, and arrived at Bennett and Associates 15 minutes early. The receptionist, a young woman who couldn't have been more than 25, looked me over with barely concealed dismissal. You're here for the Stevens estate reading? I am. Harold Stevens, the widower. Something in my tone made her look up sharply, but before she could respond, voices erupted from down the hall. Loud, angry voices that I recognized immediately. This is ridiculous. Linda was saying, why does he even need to be here? He's not a real beneficiary. The law requires all named parties to be present, came an unfamiliar male voice, their attorney presumably, but he didn't contribute anything to the estate, Scott added. Mom supported him, not the other way around. I listened to them argue about me like I was an inconvenience, a legal technicality to be managed. The receptionist kept glancing at me nervously, probably wondering if I was going to break down or cause a scene. At exactly 2 p.m., Nathan arrived. Behind him came a woman I didn't recognize, tall, sharp, with the kind of presence that commanded attention immediately. Mr. Stevens, Nathan said formally, giving no indication that we'd spent hours planning this moment. I'd like you to meet Diane Wells. She'll be representing your interests today. Diane extended her hand with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Stevens, I've heard a great deal about your situation. Before I could respond, Craig Bennett himself appeared. A soft-looking man in his 50s, who seemed overwhelmed by the circumstances he'd been hired to manage. Well, he said, mopping his forehead with a handkerchief, I believe everyone is here now. Shall we proceed? The conference room was larger than it needed to be, with a polished table that could have seated 20 people. The family had arranged themselves on one side like they were preparing for battle. Linda sat at the head, flanked by Tyler and Susan, with Scott positioned slightly behind them like backup reinforcement. I took the seat directly across from them with Nathan and Diane on either side of me. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Craig Bennett cleared his throat and began reading Margaret's will in a monotone voice that suggested he'd done this hundreds of times before. The standard language about being of sound mind, the formal declarations, the preliminary bequest to charity. Then came the part they'd been waiting for. To my beloved children, Tyler, Scott, and Susan, I leave the sum of $50,000 each to be distributed equally among them. I watched their faces carefully. $50,000 each was generous for most families, but it was far less than they'd expected. Linda's mouth tightened almost imperceptibly. Susan frowned. Scott leaned forward like he'd misheard. And to my dear husband, Harold Stevens, I leave the remainder of my estate, including all properties, investments, and business interests, to be his absolutely and without restriction. The silence that followed was deafening. Craig Bennett continued reading, but I could see that no one was listening anymore. They were all staring at me with expressions ranging from shock to outrage to complete disbelief. Excuse me, Linda interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Could you repeat that last part? The bulk of Mrs. Stevens' estate goes to her widower, as is customary in such circumstances. But what exactly does that include? Susan asked, her voice rising. The house, her pension? What are we talking about here? It was Diane Wells who answered, consulting her own copy of the will with professional detachment. According to these documents, Mr. Stevens inherits all real property, all financial accounts, all business assets, and all personal property not specifically mentioned elsewhere in the will. That's impossible, Scott said flatly. Mom would never leave us with just $50,000 each. Nathan leaned forward slightly. I'm afraid it's quite legal, Mr. Stevens. Your mother was very specific about her intentions. But she didn't earn any of it. Linda exploded, finally losing the composure she'd been struggling to maintain. He never worked. He never contributed anything. He was just there, living off her success. The words hung in the air like poison, just there. The same phrase she'd used the night she'd thrown me out of my own home. I stood up slowly, feeling every eye in the room focus on me. For 38 years, I had let Margaret be the face of our success. I had allowed people to assume she was the business mind while I played the supporting husband. I had been content to remain in the shadows, building my empire quietly while she took the credit publicly. But Margaret was gone now, and the shadows had served their purpose. "You're absolutely right, Linda," I said quietly. I never contributed anything to Margaret's success. She blinked, clearly not expecting agreement. Margaret's teaching salary, her pension benefits, her modest savings account, that was all her. I had nothing to do with any of it. I could see confusion rippling across their faces. This wasn't the response they'd expected. "But you see," I continued, my voice growing stronger, "Margaret's estate isn't what you think it is, and I'm not who you think I am." Diane Wells was already reaching into her briefcase, pulling out documents that would change everything. Nathan was checking his watch, timing the moment perfectly. "What do you mean?" Tyler asked, speaking for the first time since the reading began. I looked at each of them in turn. These people who had dismissed me, who had thrown me out of my own home, who had treated me like a burden to be disposed of. I said, allowing myself the smallest smile, that you've been operating under some very expensive assumptions about who owns what in this family. Diana opened her briefcase with the precision of a surgeon. "Perhaps we should clarify exactly what constitutes Margaret Stevens' estate versus Harold Stevens' personal holdings." The first document hit the table like a bombshell. The deed to 47 Elm Street, showing my name as sole owner since 2008. Then came the ownership papers for Stevens Holdings LLC, my company that owned 12 properties across 3 states. Bank statements showing accounts with balances that made Margaret's teacher's salary look like pocket change. The total value of Mr. Stevens Holdings, Diane announced, is approximately $32 million, not including what he inherited from Margaret's estate. The room exploded. Linda's face went white, then red, then white again. Scott dropped his head into his hands. Susan started crying. Tyler just sat there staring at me like he'd never seen me before. "So when you asked me to leave," I said calmly, "you were evicting me from my own property. When you called me a burden, you were speaking to someone who'd been supporting this family for decades." I stood up and gathered my things. "You have 72 hours to remove your belongings from my house. After that, I'll have you legally evicted." 6 months later, I got a call from the hospital. Tyler had been in an accident. When I arrived, he looked broken in more ways than one. "You came," he said, relief washing over his face. "Of course I came. You're my son." We talked for hours about Linda leaving when the money disappeared, about his guilt over that night, about the father he'd failed to defend and the relationship we might still be able to rebuild. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "You don't need to expect it," I replied. "You just need to earn it." Now I'm curious about you listening to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Comment below and tell me what city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. Sometimes the biggest mistake people make is assuming that quiet means weak and that invisible means powerless. The people who truly matter will respect you for who you are, not for what they think you should be.